When I think of urban, I think a lot of people. So I think that it's the voice of the people, right?
For me, urban means home. And I was born and raised in Tondo, and Tondo is like one of the most densely populated places in Asia.
One thing I like about the urban atmosphere is you do get a range of different people, kind of like a melting pot of culture.
A lot of urban things, whether it be music, art, dance, fashion, it all goes back to what people are going through in a specific area, a specific place.
So when I think of the word urban, I think of community. I think of familiarity.
I think it's tough because especially right now it has a lot of connotation. It has kind of like a subsect in a city that it can define, but then I think like culturally, when you think about like art and music, it draws from a lot of mixed demographics that are often marginalized and often misrepresented and then kind of like just taken advantage of straight up. And I think it's tough now, like when I hear that word, it's often used by a lot of, you know, especially with my background in advertising, a lot of corporate companies and a lot of directors saying, oh, we're looking for like an urban feel, when, you know, they're very explicitly looking for something that has like a Black influence or a Hispanic influence. And I think just finding a line on what urban really means in context versus appropriating a style and a culture is really important. But yeah, to me, it's just kind of like from an art perspective, like my visual background is graffiti. Graffiti is a lot of kind of urban art.
I grew up in Calgary, Alberta. I absolutely love certain parts about the cities. My parents are from the Caribbean. They're from a little island called St. Kitts. The mediums that I use mostly is acrylic paint and canvas. It's easy to work with just because the dry time with acrylics is faster. That's just what I've been using for, I guess, almost 20 years now. Yeah.
I was born and raised in Tondo District, Metro Manila, and I immigrated in Calgary, Kansas 37 9 years ago. I dabble a lot with like printmaking, clothing design, and all of that, but right now I'm really honing down with sculpture.
Namely, what I'm interested in is the way that queer folks have been taught to move throughout space in a specific way, and also trans folks. I grew up here in Calgary, and I think it's sort of influenced the way I make art a lot, which is just a funny thing about how our environments influence who we are. I mean, obviously that's something I've been thinking about in relationship to this exhibition as well. So.
Mostly I work with like digital, so using like Photoshop, Illustrator. I also paint, so I use acrylic, latex paint, even oil paint, spray paint, whatever it takes to get the job done. So I was born in Jamaica, but I actually grew up in Calgary for most of my life since I was 3. And right now my practice is based in Calgary or Airdrie. I currently live in Airdrie right now.
So I was born and raised in Calgary, and I still work and live here today. I think I'll probably like move eventually, but for now I'm still here. Currently I'm researching like color theory and like how patterns and colors react together. I'm also really interested in optical illusions and kind of like the patterns that work together with those and making them.
I was born in Calgary. I grew up in Okotoks, just south of Calgary. I mainly work in ink in mark making. I had a big kind of printmaking and drawing background when I was in NACAD, and my major was in design. So I was on the computer all the time, but a lot of my roots were, you know, kind of mark making, graffiti inspired, and calligraphy inspired. So I just kind of dove in different practices on what that looks like, whether it's ink, whether it's acrylic, whether it's oil, and then finding translations between digital. Yeah, just kind of anything that's mark making, essentially. So a lot of painting.
I feel like art that really speaks to me is street art. So murals, all those spaces that you would never even give a second look at, you kind of see.
Whoever you are, your gender, race, or your class, it doesn't matter. You can have access to it. You know what I mean? It's like an actual art for the people, by the people.
I think visual art's important in the urban environment because obviously it adds a bit more like visually, but it also, I think it like creates variety within like what you're looking at and like the buildings. Because like if everything was just the materials, then there would be like less colors, less shapes, and less interactions. I think it would just be a completely different experience if there wasn't any art.
Just putting art out there for art's sake is super important, for anybody to just see off the street. And I think having that as both opportunity to showcase creativity, but also having an outlet for people that, you know, don't have any other means and could be resorting to a lot worse things, is super important.
I think it brings like conversation and like creates like ideas and thoughts for like the viewer. It makes people think about stuff that they wouldn't normally think about if they were just looking at a plain building, let's say.
Art should be accessible to everyone. I think when people think of art, sometimes they think of it as kind of elitist, whereas art, especially urban art, is something that anybody can enjoy. It's all around you. So I think that, yeah, it's always a language that kind of speaks to, like I said before, the people. And when it's about the people, yeah, there's no limits to it. It's available for anyone, any and everyone.
I'm really excited that this exhibition is traveling throughout a lot of different spaces in Alberta. I think that's something I really value. More people, I think, get to see this art than people who might be interested in coming to galleries, and that's something that is really exciting for me.
As somebody who lives in Airdrie, which is a small town, and I don't really see a lot of art there, and I also don't see like different representation for different people. So I think it's great that we're able to move the art from place to place and expose it to audiences who probably maybe would never see it or would rarely see it. I know a lot of people in small towns just rarely go into the big city. So I think that's amazing, and I think it's great that they're shining a light on urban artists, because sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to be taken seriously if you're urban art, if you do like spray painting or stuff like that. It's like not held to the same esteem all the time, so it's kind of giving it like a higher platform as well. So I definitely appreciate that.
I just wish more programs would do that and reach out to people who aren't necessarily involved or even interested in going to galleries, and that's important.
When you do something in a place, it becomes just like, you know, becomes someone, you're a vandal, you know what I mean, essentially, because of this, like, you know, capitalist way of thinking and things. And I think that's what like makes street art very powerful, is just like, as I said, it's like, it's democratic, you know what I mean, like you could do it anywhere, but you know what I mean, but you know, with our laws, yeah, you can't.
No, like you can do it anywhere.
You can do it anywhere, just don't get caught.
Yeah.
Very much.